Brad Muniz. I'd like to welcome you to Sobel Insights. Sobel Insights is a weekly series that provides some brief information on various topics. Our goal is to keep these sessions to 15 minutes. At this time, we're not offering CPE. If you have any ideas for topics or presenters, please feel free to reach out to me. Today's topic is solar energy and nonprofits. Our speaker is Jeff Chavkin at Geoscape. He's the president and co-founder. Now, with all the discussion about social and environmental issues and the consciousness to use different forms of energy, green energy, including solar, never had it in my mind of nonprofits and them using solar. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't, but what tax benefits are there, and how can nonprofits take advantage of them?
Hey, Brad. Well, thank you very much for having me on as your guest. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss this. It's something that my partners and I, it's a sector that we really wanted to attack early on in our career when we recognized, as you said, that there's both state incentives and then there's federal incentives, which are just tax incentives. So trying to figure out how nonprofits can take advantage of that, especially when a lot don't have a ton of discretionary income to spend. They're really looking to save. So how do you save without spending money? So there's a couple options available. From the state incentives, you have the SREC or the TREC, which is a state renewable energy credit. And that used to be an uncertain number. It was commodity based. I happen to trade commodities for 15 years or actually 20 years on the commodity floor. So I sort of was able to handle that and to give it a guaranteed rate for a nonprofit, so they had no risk there. However, now the market's changed, so it's actually a guaranteed amount for 15 years. So that's something that banks are very comfortable with, as are what we call PPAs, which is a power purchase agreement, where the nonprofit actually doesn't put any money up. A third party takes ownership. They receive that incentive, they receive the tax benefits, and the nonprofit just receives a reduction in their energy, and they also have the ability to create clean energy, which is always monitored, which is maintained by the owner of the company. So there's really no involvement by the nonprofit other than making sure there's a physical space available for it, that they can be financed. They still have to have decent credit. Geoscape Solar has actually created our own special purpose entity, and we have our own tax equity, so that we're able to create PPAs, power purchase agreements, for nonprofits and fund them directly through us. So we build it, fund it, etc. We also have a tax matching strategy, which is, I apologize for the lawn cutting outside my window. We also have a tax matching strategy in-house, where if a nonprofit wants to own the system, we have a way of using third-party financing along with our tax matching, so they actually can own the system in a flip ownership. So after 6-7 years, the ownership flips back to them.
So it's interesting because I've had commercial clients that have put solar in years ago. I think the first one was around between 13 and 15, and they had an enormous project, and they had bank financing on them, and the SRECs were selling for around 600, and then boom, it just crashed. And their whole lending was based on this, and they didn't anticipate, nor many people anticipate, the potential for volatility. And so you're saying now, with this, the way that it's being designed more now, there's more stability as to the potential SREC or credits that you can get.
That's exactly right, Brad. There's a few things that have changed. One is the efficiency of the panels have gone up. The prices have come down. So we're able to get a lot more energy off of a roof for a lower price point, which takes less risk out of the equation. And for the nonprofit, there's really no risk because they don't have the commodity risk anymore. It's a guaranteed commodity price. So even if they do finance it and own it, they know exactly what they're getting. We have production guarantees, which is really your only uncertainty is weather. But we base all that into our models. What it really comes down to is, do you have the physical space and do you have the need? And what part of that are we able to meet with solar? If you have to use carports, for example, they're more expensive. So the numbers may be a little higher. So they have to have a higher avoidable rate, but they're not paying the utility, so that we have more of a baseline to offset. If they have a very low utility rate and it's a very expensive project, it may not make sense. but that's something that we look into for the client, and then they can determine if it makes sense for them.
I mean, is there any cost that they have to come with up out of pocket relating to this, or?
If you do a PPA, a power purchase agreement, there is no cost to the client. If you go with our easy own where they want to own it, which will probably make them a little more money in the longer term, but they have to have access to either loans from banks or internal funding from wealthy clientele or wealthy members or some sort of benevolent fund. If they don't have that and they say, we just want to do a PPA, there's absolutely no cost. And at the end of the day, if it's 100% financed, there's really no cost either way. The difference is you're creating income. So not only are you not paying the utility, you're actually creating income. You are getting paid for creating clean energy on top of the energy you're not paying the utility. And that's something that people have a hard time wrapping their heads around.
Right.
But it's what makes New Jersey the highest incentive program in the country.
I would love for you to say that again. I don't mean literally, because I don't hear many people saying it's New Jersey's one of the best at this. They're very different. It's usually New Jersey's one of the highest at taxes.
Exactly. Exactly. So what a great pairing to create clean energy and offset your taxes.
You made me lose my next question completely when you said something like that. I'm very happy to hear that. Go New Jersey. Yeah. Great. So it's interesting. So you said that, and I never thought about, I've heard about people renting them. And I said, that's probably a better way to go to compare it to my client who bought them almost 10 years ago, that they're older systems now, probably bigger, heavier, out of date on the roof, less efficient. But the nonprofits can get them, and especially if they can get contributors, a benefactor to help support them, then they have the ability to own them themselves. And as to your comment, make more money out of it. So they get the contribution relating to it using a social, environmental aspect in conjunction with their vision or mission. Well, it may be completely different, but it still has that societal approach, and they get somebody to hopefully contribute to it or borrow on it, and then they can own it and get a bigger return on it, which sounds logical. If you own it, you're taking the risk, so you get the bigger rate of return, potential for return. And the one thing that, as you said, people seem to leave out of there a lot is that you're saving also on the energy. So not only are you getting the SRECs over here, you're saving on the energy costs also.
Correct. I mean, every homeowner, every nonprofit, every business, they're running a business, whether it is your home, your temple, your nonprofit school, whatever it is, you want to reduce your operating expenses. And this allows you to reduce operating expenses and actually be in a positive cash flow situation. So whether you have a tax appetite or you don't, it still pays for itself one way or another over time, which most investments do not. And I think that another piece that you just brought up that's very interesting is the technology aspect of solar. While it's become more efficient, which just means you're getting more energy out of a smaller footprint, we're producing the exact same energy that was produced in the 1940s on satellites that are still up there in the sky. So it's very important to note, unlike a computer or other technology, if you're meeting your electric needs, it doesn't matter if you have technology from 20 years ago, today, or 20 years from now. I think that's a very important note. Most solar panels are guaranteed to be 88 to 92% efficient 25 years from now.
Wow. I didn't expect that, considering, but now that you say it, I think about it, is that, I literally talked with a plumber today because my furnace is gone, but lasted 40 years. It's not like the computer that goes out of date much quicker, which I know that the computer companies hope for too, make some more disposable products. So it sounds all very beneficial. Are there any particular downsides? Is there something that we're missing here?
Sure, that's a great question. Everyone always says it sounds too good to be true. The fact is, it's just an incentivized program. So you want to take advantage of the incentives when they're there and the pricing, and the things that may not work for you, you may not structurally be able to handle solar. Your electric system may be very antiquated, may need upgrading. The utility may, if it's a very large system, may have a lot of costs to integrate with the utility that may make your system sort of lose its affordability, if you will, or just make the numbers not work. there are places in New Jersey where just interconnecting with the utility, it's very hard to get interconnection space in some parts, especially in Atlantic Central, just ACE territory, and there's a few territories in the north, not as much. Or just small pockets, it's hard to get connected to the utility. And then the last thing I would say is, unless you're paying cash, you are being financed. Now, the incentives pretty much pay for the owner of the system to finance the system. But there's still, if you have major red flags like potential foreclosures or a lot of back taxes, or things that real red flags, which of course, Sobel, you guys know all about the financials of your partners and the people that you deal with, your clients. They're going to know right away. Yeah, we're good. We don't make a ton of money. We've been here for 30 years. We're just trying to reduce our operating expenses. They're ideal clients. We work with private schools, whether you're a nonprofit entity or a place of worship. They're all just really great opportunities to take advantage of the incentives and to create clean energy, which is really our mission at Geoscape Solar, is just to help people figure out a way to create clean energy.
That's great, because I had done another presentation with an associate who came in to do like utility audits, not solar, more telephone. And his concern or his comment was, especially towards nonprofits, and he wrote an article on it, is that you are trying to save money to be able to use money for program needs rather than administrative and other stuff. And that he was focusing on telecommunication. You're looking at another energy aspect or utility aspect, and you're saying stop spending here so you can spend here. And they're going to have to pay salaries. They're going to have to pay their rent, or if they own the building. I wonder, can you own the panels if you don't own the building?
Yes, the answer is we have experience with all those things that we can discuss offline. I would add one other small aspect, is the roof is another reason why, if you have a roof that needs replacing, often, when you replace a roof as a nonprofit, it's a horrible sunk expense. It really gives you no utility. However, if you couple that and put a solar system that's creating income, it can help pay for projects like that. So that's another way in which it's very helpful. The last thing I would add is from a clean energy perspective, one of the things that the sayings that we go by is, we don't inherit the land from our ancestors, we're borrowing it from our children. So if we can do what we can to create clean energy while at the same time save money, I feel like nonprofits are do-gooders in general. And I just love that coupling. And that's why it's important to my partners and I to help that sector.
No, I think that it's a wonderful pairing of them. The larger companies, SEC, I know you're not talking about SEC, but it's focusing on the environmental, societal type of aspects and how companies should be reporting on it. And I think that people are going to start looking at nonprofits for this. What else are you doing? But I recommend, one thing I always recommend, one reason why we have this platform is to open it up to people to hear about this. And you're not just talking nonprofits, there are other companies, commercial companies do this too, but they should be talking to, I always say, talk to the expert, talk to the other person that knows the area. Don't just try and wing it. If you call me, I promise you, I'm going to connect you with somebody like Jeff that can help coordinate this. I learned from this, but I can only take it so far. There's people like you that need to be able to give the proper guidance. So I recommend people reach out to you, at least to hear about it, hear what the potential is. All commercial, but especially nonprofits that are all struggling, these are ways for you to potentially save some money and use your funds better for program services. So thank you very much for opening this up to our client base and our contacts, commercial and nonprofit. So
thank you so much for the opportunity, Brad. I appreciate it.
Great. I want to thank everybody for viewing. And if you have any ideas for topics or presenters, please feel free to reach out to us.